right, so let's dive into this EU AI Act.
Yeah.
You sent over a ton of documents about it.
I did.
And wow.
It's a lot, huh?
Yeah, it's a lot to go through. We're
Yeah.
talking regulation of the European Parliament and of the Council laying down harmonized rules on artificial intelligence. Articles 1 through 123, annexes I through X through 8. The whole shebang.
The whole thing.
But don't worry, we're not going to bury you in all the legal mumbo jumbo.
Right.
We're going to focus on what's important to you.
Definitely.
And why this matters, right?
Absolutely.
At its core, the EU AI Act aims to regulate AI, for the benefit of society and to kind of mitigate any potential harms.
Yeah, that's right.
It's a big, ambitious goal, I think.
It is. It's being watched very closely around the world.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
And we're going to start with something that might surprise some people.
Okay.
The AI Act doesn't just regulate AI. It actually bans certain AI practices outright. What really struck me as I was going through all this was the types of AI that they're calling unacceptable AI practices. These are like completely off limits.
Yeah, these are the practices that the EU has decided are just too risky, too dangerous.
Right.
They're just not allowed.
And some of these examples are kind of scary when you think about it.
Yeah.
Like, did you know that they ban AI systems that are designed to manipulate people? To cause harm?
That's right.
We're not talking about some, sci-fi movie here.
No.
Think about a chatbot, right, that's designed to encourage someone to hurt themselves.
That's exactly the kind of situation they're trying to prevent with this Article 5.
Because heavy stuff.
Yeah, it is. It recognizes, the potential for AI to be used to exploit people.
Yeah.
Take advantage of their vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
To really do some damage.
It's kind of chilling when you think about the possibilities there.
And
it's not just about protecting people from psychological harm, right?
Right.
The AI Act also bans real-time facial recognition by law enforcement in public spaces.
Yeah, this is a big one. Article 5 puts strict limitations on the use of those technologies, facial recognition being a big one, in publicly accessible spaces.
So, no more Big Brother watching us everywhere we go?
Well, not exactly. I mean, there are some exceptions.
Oh, okay.
If it's necessary to prevent a terrorist attack or find a missing child, things like that. But those exceptions are very narrowly defined.
So it's not a total ban, but it's a pretty strong statement.
It is.
About, privacy.
Absolutely.
And fundamental rights in this age of AI, right?
For sure. And that commitment to those rights extends to other areas as well.
Okay.
Like emotion recognition systems, for example.
Emotion recognition.
Yeah, the AI Act bans those in workplaces and schools.
So my boss can't use AI to track my mood?
Not usually, no. The Act recognizes the potential for these technologies to be used in discriminatory or invasive ways. And they want to limit that in sensitive areas.
Makes sense.
Of course, there's some exceptions, like
Right.
If you're using emotion recognition for medical diagnoses or for safety applications.
Right.
But those are limited.
So, again, it's not a complete ban, but it's clear that the EU is being cautious, right?
They are.
They're putting individual rights first.
Yes.
But let's move on to another category of AI systems that the Act deals with.
Right.
One that's not banned outright, but has some pretty strict rules.
You're talking about high-risk AI systems.
Exactly, high risk.
Yeah.
So what makes an AI system high risk?
Well, a high-risk AI system is one that's intended to be used in a way that could have a significant impact on people's lives.
Sure.
Where there's a real potential for things to go wrong.
Right.
With serious consequences.
So we're not talking about AI that, plays games or recommends movies.
No, not at all.
This is AI that's making decisions with real-world consequences, right?
Right.
Potentially impacting people's health, their safety,
Absolutely.
their fundamental rights.
Yeah, exactly.
What are some examples of that?
Well, take AI systems that are used in critical infrastructure.
Okay.
Like managing power grids or air traffic control.
If that goes wrong, it's a big deal.
Huge consequences if those systems malfunction.
Yeah, that's a scary thought for sure.
Yeah.
What else?
Well, another category is AI systems used in law enforcement.
Okay.
Like imagine an AI system being used to predict who's likely to commit a crime
Wow.
or to assess the risk of someone reoffending.
Yeah, huge potential for bias there, right?
Enormous.
And the consequences of getting it wrong are huge.
Massive.
We're talking about people's freedom.
Absolutely.
Their futures potentially being decided by these algorithms.
That's right.
So how does the AI Act address those risks?
It puts a whole bunch of requirements on these high-risk AI systems
Oh, okay.
throughout their entire life cycle. Like everything from ensuring the quality of the data that's used to train the AI to implementing risk management systems and conducting these thorough assessments before the systems can even be put on the market.
So it's not just about hoping for the best.
Nope.
It's about putting in place real concrete measures, right?
Absolutely.
To mitigate those risks and ensure that these systems are developed and deployed responsibly.
That's the goal.
And it's a goal that requires the involvement of everyone, right?
Exactly.
Everyone in the AI value chain.
Everyone.
From the developers to the companies using it to the authorities overseeing it all.
That's right.
That's a good point. The AI Act doesn't just focus on the big tech companies creating this stuff, right? It considers that whole chain of people and organizations involved.
It lays out specific obligations for, providers, importers, distributors, deployers,
Right.
even users of AI systems.
Wow, so everyone's got a part to play here.
They do. Everyone has a role in making sure this is done responsibly.
Okay, so let's break down this AI value chain a little bit.
Okay.
Who are all these different players,
Uh-huh.
and what are they actually responsible for under this act?
Okay, so first you have the providers.
Okay.
These are the folks who are actually developing the AI systems.
So they're the ones building it, right?
Exactly.
From the ground up.
They're responsible for things like ensuring the quality of the data used to train the AI,
Oh, okay.
conducting risk assessments, providing clear instructions to the users.
So they got to make sure it's built responsibly.
From the very beginning, yeah.
Right from the start.
Yeah.
And then you've got the importers and the distributors who are bringing these systems into the EU.
That's right.
So they're responsible for making sure that what they're selling or distributing actually complies with the rules, right?
Exactly. It's not just about what's developed in Europe. It's about what comes into the EU as well.
Got it. And then there's the deployers.
Yeah, the deployers are the companies or organizations that are actually using the systems.
So like a hospital using AI for diagnoses.
Exactly.
Or a bank using AI for fraud detection.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they have a responsibility to use the systems the way they're supposed to be used.
Right.
To monitor how they're performing and to have procedures in place to deal with any problems that come up.
So they can't just like plug it in and forget about it.
No.
They got to actively manage it, right?
Okay.
Make sure it's being used safely,
That's right.
responsibly.
Yeah.
And even the users, right?
Even the users have some responsibilities, like being aware of the limitations of the AI
Okay.
and using it ethically.
So it's not just the companies, it's really all of us, right? Interacting with these systems.
We all have a role to play in making sure they're used for good.
That's a big responsibility when you think about it.
It is.
Okay, so we've got this chain of responsibility. I'm curious, what if someone modifies an existing AI system?
Well, that's a good question.
Does that change anything
It
in terms of who's responsible?
The AI Act actually addresses that specifically.
Oh, wow.
It says that if someone modifies a system in a way that significantly changes its purpose or how it works,
Okay.
they could actually become the provider in the eyes of the law.
Whoa, so even if you're just like tweaking an existing system,
Yeah.
you could be on the hook for all those provider obligations.
You could, especially if your modifications make the system high risk.
That's a pretty big deal.
It is.
It shows how they're trying to make sure everyone's accountable
Absolutely, at every stage.
at every stage.
Yeah.
It's really interesting how they're thinking about this, but this is all fascinating stuff.
It is.
But I feel like we're just scratching the surface.
Yeah, we are.
There's so much more to explore in the AI Act, and I know you've got some particularly interesting insights about a term that comes up a lot in the documentation.
Oh, yeah.
Biometric data.
Biometric data. That's a key focus of the AI Act, and it's understandable why.
Yeah, I need a quick refresher on that, actually.
Okay.
What exactly does biometric data mean?
Well, it's basically personal information that's derived from, specific technical processing of your physical, physiological, or behavioral characteristics.
So like in spy movies when they use fingerprints or iris scans to identify someone.
Exactly. But it goes beyond that. Think facial images, voice patterns, even how you walk.
Gait analysis.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, they're looking at all that.
The AI Act is very concerned about how this type of data is used in AI systems.
And I can see why. This data it's incredibly personal.
It is.
And once it's out there, right?
That's right. You can't exactly change your fingerprint.
Exactly.
That's why the AI Act links the use of this data to existing data protection laws like GDPR.
Okay, yeah, GDPR, right?
Yep. Any use of biometric data in AI systems needs to meet those strict requirements.
So it's not just about protecting the data itself, but how it's used.
Exactly. Especially with these powerful AI systems.
They can do so much with that data. They can.
It's kind of scary, right?
It can be.
But the AI Act goes into a lot of detail about specific applications of biometric data that are considered risky.
It does.
Like it defines publicly accessible spaces
Mm.
and why that's important for things like facial recognition.
Right.
So using facial recognition at, let's say, a border crossing might be okay.
Yeah.
But using it to track people in a park, that's different.
Very different. Yeah, that raises serious privacy concerns.
Yeah, I can see that.
The Act even gives a really interesting example.
Huh.
They talk about a doctor's office that's in a private building.
Okay.
Even though the hallway is technically accessible to anyone,
Right.
it's not considered a publicly accessible space under the Act because access to the doctor's office itself is restricted.
Interesting. So they're really thinking through all these scenarios to try and draw these clear lines
Yep.
about what's okay and what's not when it comes to using this data.
That's right. And it's not just about where the data is collected,
Okay.
but also how it's used.
The Act specifically says you can't use AI to categorize people based on their biometric data
Okay.
to figure out sensitive attributes.
Like their race or...
Yeah, exactly, like their race, their political opinions, their sexual orientation,
Oh.
things like that.
It seems like they're trying to prevent AI from being used for discrimination
They are. They want to get ahead of that problem.
before it even starts.
Exactly.
Mhm.
The AI Act wants to promote responsible and ethical AI development,
Mhm.
and that means addressing these risks head on.
Right. Right now, switching gears a bit.
Okay.
We've talked about the risks of certain types of AI,
Mhm.
but the AI Act doesn't just focus on restrictions.
That's right.
There's also this idea of regulatory sandboxes,
Yeah.
which seems almost counterintuitive given all the rules we've been talking about.
It does seem that way, doesn't it?
It does.
But the sandboxes are really interesting.
Okay.
They're designed to encourage innovation
Okay.
by giving companies a safe space to test out new AI applications.
Under the supervision of regulators. Exactly.
So it's like a safe space for experimentation
It is.
where you can, push the boundaries a little bit
Yeah.
without worrying about breaking the rules
Right.
or causing harm. Right?
Exactly. They recognize that regulating AI is a delicate balance.
Yeah, you don't want to stifle innovation. Right.
Yeah, you don't, but you also need to make sure it's done responsibly.
Right.
So the sandboxes are a way to kind of find that middle ground.
It's a great idea. Companies can get feedback from regulators, work out the kinks
Yeah.
before releasing their AI out into the world.
Exactly. It's a way to encourage collaboration
Right.
between the innovators and the regulators.
I like that.
It's a more agile approach to AI governance.
And speaking of governance, the AI Act obviously has a strong focus on enforcement, right?
It does.
So what happens when a company doesn't follow the rules?
Well, the Act outlines a pretty robust system of enforcement and penalties for violations.
Okay.
National authorities in each EU country are responsible for making sure that the rules are followed. So if a company is developing AI in a way that violates the Act, they're going to face consequences.
Absolutely. And those consequences can be pretty serious.
Okay, so it's not just a slap on the wrist.
Yeah.
There are real teeth to these
The
regulations.
fines can be substantial.
How substantial are we talking?
Up to 30 million euros or 6% of the company's global annual turnover,
Wow.
whichever is higher.
So it's a pretty strong incentive to comply.
It is.
But it's not just national authorities, is it?
No, it's not.
I seem to recall there's also a new body at the EU level.
That's right. They're establishing a European Artificial Intelligence Board,
Okay.
which will provide guidance on how to interpret and implement the rules
Mm-hmm.
and help coordinate enforcement across the EU.
So it's not just each country doing their own thing.
No, it's not.
There's a central body to make sure everyone's on the same page.
Exactly. A harmonized approach across the bloc.
Okay, so we've got the rules, the enforcement, even these sandboxes to encourage innovation. But I think it's important to remember that the AI Act isn't a static document, right?
That's a crucial point.
It's designed to adapt to the ever-changing landscape of AI.
Absolutely. It's got built-in mechanisms for review and revision
Because AI is moving so fast, right?
at warp speed.
What's cutting edge today might be obsolete tomorrow.
Exactly. The AI Act acknowledges that and provides a framework that can adapt as the technology evolves.
So it's not about setting things in stone.
Yep.
It's about creating a system that can keep pace with the changes.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important for everyone involved. The developers, the companies, the regulators, even the users,
Right.
to stay informed and engaged in the conversation about AI governance.
Yeah, it's not a one-time thing.
It's not.
This is a living document. The conversation has to evolve with it.
Absolutely.
Okay, but before we get too far ahead of ourselves,
All right.
there's another important part of the AI Act I want to highlight.
Okay.
We've talked a lot about the risks of AI, but the Act also recognizes the incredible potential of this technology to benefit society.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not all doom and gloom, right?
Not at all.
I mean, think about the potential for AI to revolutionize healthcare, make transportation safer,
Yeah.
help us tackle climate change.
It's huge.
These are big things.
It is.
And the AI Act acknowledges that too.
It does.
It's not just about mitigating risks, it's
Yeah.
also about fostering innovation,
Yes.
creating an environment where AI can thrive and do good.
Absolutely.
So how do they walk that line?
Well, how do they balance that?
Yeah, how do they balance protecting society and promoting innovation?
Well, aside from those regulatory sandboxes, which allow for experimentation,
Right.
the Act really emphasizes transparency
Okay.
and explainability in AI systems.
So no more black box AI,
No more black boxes.
where nobody knows how the algorithm is making decisions.
Right. The Act requires developers of those high-risk systems to provide clear information about how those systems work. Explaining the data, the logic, the potential limitations.
That's crucial for building trust, right?
It is. If people can understand how it works, they're more likely to accept the decisions.
Yeah.
Even if they don't always agree.
It makes sense.
And it also allows for more accountability.
Oh, yeah.
If something goes wrong,
Yeah.
you can trace the problem back.
Right.
Figure out what needs to be fixed.
So transparency is key, but the Act also goes a step further, right?
It does.
It talks about human oversight.
Yeah, human oversight.
What does that mean in the context of AI?
It basically means making sure that humans are still in control of these systems,
Okay.
even as they become more sophisticated, more autonomous.
So it's not about replacing humans, it's about using AI to help us, right?
Exactly, augmenting our capability.
Working together.
Working together to make better decisions.
Like having an emergency brake for AI, right?
I like that analogy.
Even if the AI is making decisions on its own,
Yeah,
there's always a human there to step in if things go wrong.
that's right. The AI Act is saying trust but verify.
Trust but verify. I like that.
We can't just blindly rely on these systems to get it right every time.
It seems like the EU is trying to find that balance, right?
They are.
They're not ignoring the risks,
Nope.
but they're also not trying to stop innovation.
They're trying to find a way for AI to develop and flourish
Right.
while ensuring that it benefits society as a whole.
And what about the impact beyond Europe?
Good question.
The EU is a big player on the global stage.
They are.
Do you think this act will influence how other countries approach AI regulation?
It's hard to say for sure,
Yeah.
but it's certainly possible. The EU is often seen as a leader in tech regulation, and this is one of the most comprehensive pieces of AI legislation out there.
So other countries might look to the EU as a model
They might.
for how to do this, right?
Absolutely. The Act's focus on ethics, human oversight, transparency, that could set a precedent for the rest of the world.
It's like they're laying down a blueprint for the future of AI governance.
In many ways, yes.
Wow.
It's a bold experiment, and it'll be fascinating to see how it plays out.
Yeah, in Europe and beyond.
For sure.
I don't know about you, but I'm feeling a little overwhelmed by all this.
Yeah, it's a lot to process.
This act is packed with so many complex ideas and implications.
It is, but that's what a deep dive is all about, isn't it?
I guess so.
Exploring a topic in depth,
Yeah.
uncovering the nuances and the complexities.
Well, I think we've done a pretty good job of that so far.
I think so too.
We've covered a lot of ground.
We have.
Banned practices, high-risk systems, biometric data, the AI value chain, regulatory sandboxes, transparency, human oversight, enforcement, even the global impact.
It's a lot.
I feel like I've learned a ton.
Me too, and I hope our listener has as well.
But, this is just the beginning, right?
It is.
This conversation about AI and its impact, it's ongoing.
And it's one that we all need to be a part of.
Absolutely. The future of AI, it's not set in stone.
No.
It's something that we're creating together.
That's right.
And the more we know, the more we're engaged, the better equipped we'll be to shape that future in a positive way.
I agree.
So where can our listeners go from here?
Well, like we mentioned earlier, the EU has set up an AI office.
Right.
They have a ton of information on their website
Right.
about the AI Act, and they have resources for developers who want to get involved with those sandboxes.
Okay, that's good. And beyond that?
There are tons of other organizations, researchers, experts
Right.
all over the world.
It's like a global brain trust focused on making sure AI is used for good.
I love that analogy, and we encourage our listeners to join that brain trust.
Yes, absolutely.
Don't be afraid to dive in.
Ask questions.
Share your perspectives.
The future of AI is too important to be left to just a few experts.
It really is.
We all have a role to play.
We do.
In shaping this technology.
Absolutely.
And making sure it's used to benefit all of humanity.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, it's been a pleasure diving into this complex and fascinating topic with you.
It has. It's been great.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the EU AI Act.
Thank you.
We hope you found it informative and thought-provoking.
I hope so.
And remember, this is just the start of the conversation.
It is.
Stay curious, stay engaged,
Yes.
and help us build a future where AI serves humanity.
And that's the goal.
Not the other way around.
Couldn't agree more.